Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief, and thanks to all of you. Thank you most of all to our first responders, our courageous men and women who fight for safety every single day. And thank you all for enjoying this beautiful morning here in the Soo. It's a nice day to work on my tan, and it's great to be Canadian, isn't it? It's great to be also with the next Member of Parliament for the Soo, a 30-year-long police officer serving this community as the chief, widely respected as someone who stood behind the men and women in uniform and always stood on the side of law-abiding Canadians. This election is a choice. After a lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, we cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. We need to put Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash our resources, and strengthen our economy so that we can stand up to the Americans from a position of strength. We need a change. A lost Liberal decade of soft-on-crime, hug-a-thug policies has made life more dangerous. That's one reason why we can't risk a fourth Liberal term. We need a change to lock up the worst offenders, treat addiction, and bring home safety to our communities. Once safe streets have become scenes of chaos and disorder for too many Canadians, the threat of crime is now an everyday fact of life. It wasn't like this before. Canadians used to walk their streets in safety and tranquility. In small Northern Ontario towns, many did not even bother to lock their doors because it was so safe. But starting 10 years ago, the Liberal government began adopting catch-and-release policies, like C5 that allows repeat offenders to do their sentences in their living rooms under house arrest, or C75, which says that the judge must release an accused at the earliest opportunity and under the least onerous conditions, even if that offender has 75 or 100 prior convictions. The result? The Liberal violent crime wave has made many communities unrecognizable. Violent crime is up 50%. Gun crime has soared 116%. Gang homicides are up 78%. And extortion is up 46%. Auto theft is up an eye-watering 357%. Le Canada a souffert pendant la décennie perdue des libéraux. Mais personne n'a souffert plus que les victimes de criminalité. La criminalité s'est explosée à cause de la décennie perdue des libéraux, où ils ont permis nos pires criminels récidivistes d'aller dans les rues et d'être libérés presque automatiquement. En fait, avec ces 75, les libéraux permettent les accusés d'être libérés sous les conditions les moins contraignantes à la première occasion, selon la loi. Ces 5 permettent aux pires criminels de purger leurs peines à la maison, les peines Netflix. C'est comme ça qu'on a perdu la sécurité publique. Le Canada était l'un des endroits les plus sécuritaires au monde avant les libéraux, mais il y a 10 ans, les libéraux ont commencé à défaire les politiques de justice que les conservateurs, auparavant, avaient mis en place. Ils ont réduit les peines, ils ont introduit des politiques de libération automatique, ils ont presque légalisé les drogues dures en indiquant aux procureurs de ne pas poursuivre des allégations de possession, et ils n'ont pas contrôlé nos frontières. Une vague de crimes violents qui a suivi ces politiques libérales est massive. 50% plus de crimes violents. 116 plus de crimes liés aux armes. Les homicides commis par une gang ont grimpé de 78%, l'extorsion de 46% et le vol de voitures de 357%. This is not happening only in our big cities, but in smaller cities like the Soo, Calls to police are up 7.8% since 2020, and residents have woken up to stories about multiple shootings in a single weekend. Or news of that police had raided an apartment, finding guns, fentanyl, and other drugs. In that case, one of the men who was involved was out on early release. It's an all too familiar story. In Saskatchewan in 2022, Miles Sanderson and his brother went on a killing spree. They killed 11 people and injured 17. Think of that for a moment. 2 men killed or injured 28 human beings. Now, that is bad enough, but what's worse is that it was absolutely preventable. Sanderson was out on statutory release. That is to say, he was released because the law required he be released after 59 prior convictions. 59. This is insane. Que quelqu'un peut commettre 59 crimes consécutifs et être libéré automatiquement basé sur une loi libérale est ridicule. Et la conséquence, c'est 11 personnes qui ont perdu la vie. Last year, investigators in Peel Region made 18 arrests in connection with a string of home invasions, armed robberies, carjackings, with over $1.2 million worth of stolen vehicles recovered. Of the 18, half of the offenders were out on bail. Across Canada in 2022, 256 people were charged with homicide while they were out on release, either on bail or parole. In Vancouver, police had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. That means that each offender was arrested on average once every 2 days all year long. And those are just the crimes for which they got caught. Can you imagine being arrested 150 times in a year? You must be doing crime all day, every day, for that to be the case. In other cities, we have individual offenders who by themselves raise the crime rate for an entire city. There's one offender in Penticton. The police say when he's out of jail, the crime rate for all of Penticton goes up because he by himself does that much crime. The good news is that we don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. The bad news is they're very productive. Enough. It's time to lock up the very small group of rampant career criminals who are causing all the chaos. We cannot go on with another 4 years of Liberal catch and release. We need a change to bring safety back to our streets. That's why I am announcing today that a future Conservative government will bring that change. Not only will we repeal Liberal catch and release laws, we will carry out the biggest crackdown on crime in Canadian history. And we will do it by passing the 3 strikes, you're out law. 3 strikes, you're out means that anyone convicted of 3 serious offenses will be ineligible thereafter for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. And they will serve a minimum of 10 years behind bars, a maximum of life imprisonment, and they will have to earn their release even still. We will designate such offenders as dangerous offenders, meaning they cannot be released until they have proven that they are no longer a danger to society. Under my watch, the only way for repeat offenders to obtain their freedom will be through spotless behavior and clean drug tests during a lengthy minimum prison sentence with earned release dependent on making real progress in improving their lives, such as learning a trade or upgrading their education. They will also have to take drug tests to prove that they are clean. On a besoin de nouveaux gouvernements conservateurs pour faire changer les choses et mettre fin à la vague de criminalité que les libéraux ont provoquée. Et qui va mettre un nouveau gouvernement qui va mettre le Canada d'abord pour faire changement. C'est pourquoi j'annonce aujourd'hui qu'un nouveau gouvernement conservateur ne va pas seulement abroger les lois libérales d'arrestation et de remise en liberté, mais va aussi mener la plus grande campagne de lutte contre la criminalité de l'histoire du Canada. On va le faire en adoptant les lois des 3 coups. Cette loi va empêcher les criminels reconnus coupables de trois infractions graves d'obtenir une libération sous caution, une probation, une libération conditionnelle ou une détention domicile, et va maintenir les récidivistes violents derrière des barreaux plus longtemps pour les tenir à l'écart de leurs victimes et de protéger nos rues. Elle va garantir que les criminels dangereux, reconnus coupables d'une troisième infraction violente soient infligés d'une peine d'emprisonnement minimale de 10 ans et pouvant aller jusqu'à la vie en prison. Ils vont aussi également désigner comme délinquants dangereux, ce qui signifie qu'ils ne pourront pas être libérés avant de prouver qu'ils ne sont plus un risque envers le public. Sous ma direction, la seule façon que les récidivistes d'obtenir leur liberté va être de faire preuve de conduite irréprochable et de passer des tests de dépistage de drogue négatifs pendant une longue période de temps, sachant que leur libération va dépendre d'un comportement exceptionnel et d'un travail pour s'améliorer avec la formation de métier ou en poursuivant des études. Hug-a-thug, catch and release, liberal policies have destroyed our once safe towns and cities. Electing them to a fourth term in power will only make the violence worse. Only conservatives will bring change and take violent repeat offenders off our streets so that our people can once again be safe. We know that a fourth Liberal term under Mark Carney will be no different than the previous three under Trudeau. We know that he has the same Liberal ministers, Liberal MPs, Liberal strategists, and Liberal promises that got us into this mess, and he will not get us out. For example, the Liberal Justice Minister, who brought in many of these policies, David Lametti, immediately became Mark Carney's top advisor. And his handpicked candidate in Victoria, Mr. Carney's handpicked candidate in Victoria, wants to defund and disarm the police. Think about that for a second. Defund and disarm the police. Who's going to protect us? These are the radical Liberal agendas that are getting worse, not better, under Mr. Carney. Only a new Conservative government will give repeat violent criminals jail, not bail, and keep the worst offenders off our streets behind bars. Only a new Conservative government will stop the crime for a change. In addition to 3 strikes and you're out, we will bring life sentences for human traffickers, for gun smugglers, and for mass fentanyl producers. We will bring in tougher sentences for domestic abusers. And we will shut down the drug dens, defund the opioids, lock up the major traffickers of those opioids, and provide 50,000 treatment spaces to save the lives of loved ones who have become addicted. And only a new Conservative government will put Canada first for a change. The people who work hard, pay their taxes, and play by the rules. We'll cut income taxes by 15% for the average worker and senior so that hard work pays off. We'll take the sales tax off new homes and incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and allow more home building so people can actually afford a place to live after the decade of Liberal housing crises. We'll take capital gains tax off anyone who reinvests their proceeds here in Canada to build our economy. We'll repeal the Liberal no new development laws to unleash the strength of our economy and stand up to the Americans from a position of might. Unlocking our resources and getting them to the world will allow us to go around the Americans and bring home powerful paychecks, including for the tradespeople, of whom we are going to train 350,000 more. The choice in the election is after a lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb. Can we afford a fourth Liberal term? Or is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, lock up criminals, unleash our resources, and stand strong against the Americans under our proud flag? Le choix dans les élections qui s'en viennent, c'est est-ce qu'on devrait, après la décennie perdue des libéraux, leur permettre un 4e mandat avec les coûts et la criminalité qui augmentent et l'économie qui tombe sous la dépendance des Américains, ou est-ce qu'il nous faut un vrai changement avec un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va couper les taxes et impôts, bâtir des logements, arrêter les criminels et libérer nos ressources naturelles pour faire face aux Américains avec la force. And we're going to bring back Canada's promise in a country where hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street under a proud flag. And just before I wrap up, let me just say it is Vimy Day. Let's give thanks, regardless of our political affiliation. Let's give thanks to the 3,598 courageous soldiers who triumphed at Vimy all those years ago. We can only imagine the harsh conditions and the terror that they experienced to bring about that great moment of Canadian pride. Let us continue to build a country that is worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Canada first for a change.
Thank you, everyone. We will now take questions from the floor. Please say your name and outlet.
Thank you.
Elaine Delamattia, Sous Star. At last night's rally, you only mentioned steel in passing. This is a steel town. Tariffs are a serious issue for both the workers, the steel workers, and the community overall. We're also a border town. We've had traditionally great relationships with our American neighbors. What is your plan to deal with the tariffs and help the steel industry prosper in Canada and return good relationships with our American neighbors? And if you could answer in English and French for my French colleagues, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. A very important question. I did mention steel yesterday in my remarks, and obviously the steel industry is under attack. This is an area where Mr. Trump and Mr. Carney agree. They both want to tax Canadian steel. Trump with tariffs, Carney with carbon taxes. Mr. Carney has said he's admitted that he wants an expanded industrial carbon tax, and when asked who would pay it, he specifically said the steel industry would pay it. If the Liberal carbon tax is allowed to stay in place and quadruple in size over the next 4 years, as the law has set out, there will be no steel industry left in Canada. Obviously Algoma, but there's also Dofasco, Stelco, Evraz, Gardeau, and many others who will shut down and go south, where there is no carbon tax and where they would be free from American tariffs. So our plan to start with is to axe the entire carbon tax, including the industrial tax that Mr. Carney says he wants to keep in place. We will also put in place counter tariffs on the Americans to dissuade and deter their protectionism against our steel products. We will cut taxes on investment, allowing Canadians to pay zero capital gains tax when they reinvest in Canada. This will unlock a boom. It will be like jet fuel for the Canadian economy. And industries that are investment intensive like steel will be among the greatest beneficiaries. We're going to bring home, by the way, we're also the only party that supports building pipelines. We are going to repeal the No New Pipelines Liberal Law C-69 and build Canadian pipelines with Canadian steel to get Canadian energy to Canadian markets. We will build LNG plants that also require massive amounts of steel, and we will make that domestic Canadian steel. That's how we're going to protect the jobs of the great steel workers, of the Soo, of Hamilton, of Regina, and right across this country. Our people are made of steel, and our economy will be as well. Let's put Canada first for a change. Thank you.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Tout d'abord, comme j'ai dit hier, je suis un grand supporter de l'industrie de l'acier. L'une des choses sur lesquelles M. Carney et M. Trump sont d'accord, c'est les deux veulent mettre des taxes sur l'acier canadien. M. Trump avec des tarifs, M. Carney avec des taxes carbone. Moi, je veux ni l'un ni l'autre. Je vais éliminer la taxe carbone industrielle libérale. Je vais enlever la taxe sur les gains en capital pour ceux et celles qui réinvestissent leurs gains ici au Canada. Ça va causer un boom dans l'investissement ici au Canada. On va aussi approuver des pipelines des usines de gaz naturel en abrogeant la loi libérale C-69 pour permettre davantage de production de ces industries utilisant l'acier canadien. Et finalement, on va riposter contre les tarifs américains pour nous assurer qu'ils sont dissuadés de continuer avec une guerre tarifaire. C'est comme ça qu'on va protéger notre propre industrie. Après les décennies perdues des libéraux, on ne peut pas payer le prix d'un 4e mandat. Il nous faut un nouveau gouvernement avec un vrai changement qui va couper les taxes et ramener la production ici, chez nous. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Next question.
Greg McGrath, Gaudy, Sue today.
Yes, sir.
Opioid crisis obviously is a problem across the country, but I know here in Sault Ste. Marie, last year there were at least 2 quarters where Sault Ste. Marie led Ontario in the death rate for opioid overdoses. I'm just wondering, since your party mentioned it's going to help 50,000 people recover, how is that going to roll out, particularly in smaller or more remote communities like Sault Ste. Marie? Are you going to support people to recover inside of their communities? What kind of supports are you going to bring to these communities?
Yes, very good question. As you correctly pointed out, our platform is to fund 50,000 treatment spaces over the next 4 years. We've lost 50,000 people to overdoses. So in honor of those we've lost, we want to treat the same number of people. We are going to fund treatment facilities with a proven track record of getting people off drugs. And we're going to use a new pay-for-performance model. So instead of just having organizations fill out application forms, get grants, and then file the paperwork to tell us what they did later on, what we will do is pay organizations that successfully get addicts drug-free through verified drug testing and confirmation after the fact. We'll pay a higher fee to organizations that help tougher cases, and obviously a more modest fee for addictions treatment that is less severe, for a less severe case. So think about organizations like the Oak Centre in Winnipeg, Harvest House in Ottawa and in Moncton, or countless others like them. What they do is they take people off the streets, they give them treatment, they give them detox, counseling, group therapy, physical exercise, sweat lodges for First Nations, job placement, housing transition, and they get them back on their feet. Organizations that have a proven track record of doing that are going to get funded from my program, and so that they can expand. Those that are starting from scratch, but that have the drug-free doctrine, they will get some seed funding to get up and off the ground so that they can start operating. But their go-forward funding will be based on how long they keep prior addicts off drugs. We have to start paying for results, not for buzzwords on application forms, not for who has the best lobbyist or consultant that knows how to work the bureaucracy to get a grant. We want proven results that we will pay for. And by the way, speaking of paying for it, we're not going to just add more expense to the government. I'm going to pay for it by cutting off the taxpayer-funded unsafe supply of opioids, by suing the drug companies that caused this crisis in the first place, and by getting rid of back office bureaucracy. We want frontline, community-based, bottom-up organizations that get people off drugs. After the lost Liberal decade of rising overdoses and crime and costs, we can't afford a 4th term. We need to stop the drugs for a change with a new Conservative government. Thank you.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Comme vous avez dit, la crise d'opioïdes est pire que jamais. J'ai annoncé que je vais offrir un financement pour donner un traitement à 50 000 Canadiens. C'est en reconnaissant les 50 000 qui ont déjà perdu la vie. On va financer les organismes qui obtiennent des résultats. Par exemple, on va demander combien de temps est-ce qu'ils ont réussi de garder une personne libre des drogues après leur dépendance. Et on va payer un montant pour chaque mois qu'ils gardent une personne libre de drogue. Il faut arrêter de payer les organismes pour avoir rempli des formulaires ou avoir des bons lobbyistes. Il faut commencer à payer des organismes qui obtiennent des résultats. Et on va financer ça en éliminant les programmes actuels des libéraux qui financent les opioïdes et des autres programmes qui ne marchent vraiment pas. Il faut, après les décennies perdues des libéraux, où on a perdu 50 000 personnes aux surdoses, on ne peut pas nous offrir un quatrième mandat. Il faut que ça change avec un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va stopper les drogues et la crime. Et c'est ce qu'on va faire.
Thank you. Next question.
Craig Lord with the Canadian Press. I want to ask you about a global news report this morning detailing donations and support you've received from the overseas friends of the BJP, Narendra Modi's party in India. How comfortable are you receiving support from friends of the BJP, given that members of that party are allegedly behind violence against Sikh separatists here in Canada?
Well, first of all, I received 37,000 separate donations that anybody can make online. We don't have the capacity to do CSIS background checks on every single person who makes those 37,000 donations. We condemn 100% any foreign interference in Canada, and anyone who collaborates with it should be jailed. But the real question you should be asking is, why haven't the Liberals got the foreign agent registry up and running? Because then we would know proactively who is working on behalf of a foreign government. And then parties could actually go through their lists of donations and find out if there is anybody who's been a bad actor. But they haven't set that up, even though it was passed into law by Parliament. The other question that you should be asking is, why is Mark Carney accepting campaign support from the Chinese Communist government? You know, here he is. He was just in China a few months ago arranging a $250 million loan for his company, a company in which he still has millions of dollars of interest. And now we find that the government in Beijing is actively interfering to campaign on behalf of Mr. Carney. I note that the government in Beijing was attacking his leadership rival, Chrystia Freeland, during the leadership race. And now they're pushing out propaganda to support his campaign again. He is conflicted. He continues to have financial interests in foreign hostile regimes in the hundreds of millions of dollars while he is Prime Minister of Canada. That is the real foreign interference that we should be worried about, and it is the foreign interference that I will end. After the lost Liberal decade, they have turned this country into a playground for foreign interference. And I will not allow that kind of thing to happen anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take a call-in question from the phone line, and this will be the final question.
Laurence Martin, Radio-Canada.
Sorry, I'm listening to the question.
Oui.
Sorry, there's just a
Bonjour,
protester here. Go ahead. Sorry. Is there? We're listening. We're trying to listen for the next person who was up asking a question. I think it's. Nous avons besoin d'une question en français. Est-ce que c'est ça?
Bonjour, M. Poilievre. Pour votre loi sur les trois coups que vous présentez aujourd'hui, êtes-vous prêt à invoquer la disposition de dérogation?
Nous croyons, nous savons que ce que je propose aujourd'hui, c'est non seulement constitutionnel, mais c'est nécessaire. La section 7 de la Charte des droits et de la liberté, ça nous garantit la protection de la vie, de la sécurité de la personne et de la liberté. Et maintenant, les criminels qui sont libérés automatiquement menacent ces droits-là. Donc, afin de protéger les droits constitutionnels des gens qui respectent la loi, il nous faut mettre des criminels en prison. Donc, mes propositions sont respectueuses de la Constitution et sont nécessaires pour protéger les droits constitutionnels de tous les Canadiens. Donc, c'est le cas actuel où un nombre de records sont en train de subir une victimisation. C'est ça la vraie menace à notre Constitution. Et il y a vraiment une différence entre moi et les libéraux. Les libéraux croient que la Constitution devrait protéger le droit des criminels de victimiser des gens innocents. Moi, je crois que la Constitution devrait protéger le droit des innocents d'avoir une vie paisible dans les communautés sécuritaires.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's press conference.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Ça conclut la conférence de presse.
Thanks, everyone.